This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. So much of your personal info is out of your control, like your insurance provider that has your social security number and your favorite retailer that has your payment details. If they get breached, your information, your identity, is vulnerable. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Now, back to the Larry Kudlow Show.
We are going to get a very big change in our immigration policy. President Trump's made no bones about it, no secret of it. One of the biggest election campaigns to his landslide, closing the border. Let's talk to our good friend Chad Wolf, former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and he's with the America First Policy Institute executive director. So, Chad, let's start with Remain in Mexico. Could not be resumed.
Well, it certainly could be, and thanks for having me on, Larry. Obviously, you're going to need to engage with the new government of Mexico, who president was just sworn in several months ago. So you'll need to initiate that. Something like that's going to be difficult to start on day one, but I think it can be probably accomplished within the first several months.
You think they'll? I've forgotten her name. It's a woman, but you think
Scheinbaum?
Scheinbaum. Good for you. You're so much smarter. And Miss Trump's already threatened to slap tariffs on all their exports to the United States if they don't play ball. That was with AMLO, the prior president. That's how he negotiated it with tariffs. I mean, you think Mexico would resist this, or will it fall into place?
I think they could do a couple of different things. I think they could just slow walk it, right? I agree with you. I don't know that they're going to tell President Trump no, but they could just delay to where obviously there'd be frustration mounting. So I think it's really important, probably starting off, now or at least in the month of December, that there needs to be an open dialogue with that government to say we need to start having these discussions now because we really, we need some measures put in place in January and February to address that historic border crisis. So it's going to be a little bit of a dance with them, a little bit of a negotiation. You're going to have to reconstruct some of their facilities that are obviously been decommissioned under the Biden administration. So there is going to be some lead time, but I think we need to get at it.
Can we finish the wall, Chad Wolf?
Oh, without a doubt. We were talking to President Trump at the end of 2020 and 2021 about another 213 or 220 priority miles of that border wall. And since we constructed over 500 miles, I think construction of these last miles, I think, is certainly doable. We need to look at the environment's not the same. It's 4 years later, so we need to pull out the plans that the Border Patrol have identified for physical infrastructure and see if they still match up where we were in 21.
And then, of course, the deportation, often referred to as mass deportation. But President Trump's, we could start with the criminals. Or you tell me, you're the expert.
Yeah,
maybe,
I think maybe
you're going back to DHS. I don't know. That's up to you and him. But I'm just saying, tell us about the deportation.
Well, I think you have to have priorities, right? Because you do have limited resources. And so as the president has said, he wants to remove the dangerous criminals, right? And so those are your public safety threats. Those are your national security threats. But we also have over 1 million folks, almost 1.5 million folks on a final order of removal, which is to say they've had an immigration judge tell them that they have no legal right to remain in the United States. And yet almost all of them have decided to stay in the United States because there's been no consequence. So there's a big population that should be removed, and we just need to let ICE officers do this. This is what they're trained to do. It's what they're hired to do. But for the last 4 years, they haven't been able to do that. And then the last thing I would say on this is, I've gotten a lot of questions of how does this look on day one or on week one, right? This isn't something that you do in 1 week or 1 month. This is a sustained effort of removing individuals day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And over time, it's going to start to add up, and you're going to see more and more individuals removed over time because of a change in enforcement priorities, more resources, more agents, and just a more focused on this element of immigration enforcement.
Chad Wolf, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the current law, immigration and naturalization or immigration and nationalization law, there are sections that would restore cooperation between local police in the cities, the sanctuary cities, and the border control people, the border patrol people or ICE and so forth. I mean, it's there. It just hadn't been used, right?
That's right. The program that's often referred to is called 287G, and that's just for where it is in the federal code. Mm-hmm. And that allows for that relationship, as you mentioned, a formal relationship between ICE and state and local law enforcement that maybe they have space in their local jail, right, that you can house these individuals. You can detain them there before you deport them. Obviously, there's a cost reimbursement there, but there's other ways that they can help as well as picking up illegal alien criminals specifically. A lot of those folks obviously have started reaching out to a variety of people saying, we want to help, we want to be part of this, we want to protect our community. So I think there's a lot of appetite. There's a big appetite, I would say, that law enforcement wants to be part of this.
I mean, you've got, I don't know legally, but you've got these sanctuary cities. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, Chadwell, but they will, in many cases, not every case perhaps, but in many cases, these so-called sanctuary cities simply will not cooperate with the Border Patrol people or ICE. They just won't do it. The reason they won't do it is not because they don't want to do it. It's because they've got local laws that prevent them from doing it. Can you get around that? Can you break through that mass of regulations?
Well, yeah, I think it's both. I think there are some actually elected, major city sheriffs and other law enforcement that don't want to cooperate. And then in other cases, as you mentioned, Larry, it's the officials, the elected officials that have said you can't cooperate. I think the environment has started to change and has changed over these last several years. I think there's a lot of jurisdictions. I mean, New York City Mayor Eric Adams is saying, hey, he's on record saying, hey, we need to actually cooperate with ICE more, right? Because they're seeing the dramatic effects of when you don't do that. That being said, federal law enforcement officers, ICE officials can still go into sanctuary jurisdictions and do their job. It's a lot better. It's a lot more safe if they do that in coordination with those local law enforcement officers there as well, right? Because if you cooperate with the local folks, then you can pick up a criminal alien while they're in jail. If you're not cooperating, you got to wait till they're released, and then they're in their community, and then it just makes it more complicated to do that. And so, they're not going to be off the table as far as an enforcement priority because they are a criminal. But it would be much better if we had the cooperation. And so the question is, how do you incentivize the cooperation? And there's probably a couple of different ways to do that. That I'm sure the president's team is looking at.
Do you need a national emergency? I just got 30 seconds. Do you need to declare a national emergency for this?
I think for certain elements, to get the Department of Defense engaged and to address or to bring to light a couple of authorities, I do think that might be the way to go.
Chad Wolf, former DHS Secretary, great friend of American First Policy Institute. Thanks so much. Take a quick break. Other side of the break, stock markets with Nancy Tengler. Big week for stocks. A welcome mat for President Trump.
Eden Memorial Chapels understands Jewish funerals can take many forms. Some are Orthodox, while others are more conservative or of a Reformed nature. There's no one better. With services close to all New York and New Jersey cemeteries, Eden Memorial Chapels offer fair and balanced pricing and can provide easy transfer of you and your loved ones to Israel. While you're grieving, they're here to take care of all the details so that you deal with less bureaucracy and have more peace of mind. Go to EdenMemorial.com. That's EdenMemorial.com.